Alright guys, we're back with the yellow ute again. We really have been struggling to find time to work on this thing, and usually when it gets worked on, it's when I'm not here. I've just had a crazy month, a whole month of just weddings and other crap that I've had to go to on weekends. Every single weekend this month I've been away. You know, we've got Power Cruise and Matsuri exactly 1 month apart, so work's just been insane. Honestly, we're just back now, was just coming off Matsuri weekend, and honestly I'm pretty stoked to try and get back into some sort of normality with our scheduling. It's been a crazy, crazy month. So, the ute's progressed quite a bit since we saw it last. I haven't done an update in a little while. It is literally running at this point, so that's how long it's been since I did an update. The wiring's all done. Rex has done all the wiring. You can see over here, got our throttle cable, cruise control module, everything's in and hooked up. Rex is just finishing off the throttle cable and stuff at the moment. We do have a few issues we've got to look at. Obviously Rex has just bunged the heater lines. There's still a fair bit to finish off. Rex, so we put the fuse box there. That's the Commodore fuse box for the positive circuit. Rex managed to just literally bolt in, because of where the battery ended up, and being LS, he actually literally just used the entire charge circuit from the Commodore. Everything just bolted straight in. So that was super, super awesome. He spent a lot of time hiding the wiring underneath the guard. So as you can see, wiring's mostly hidden. It's actually ended up quite neat and tidy. Few things to finish off, but for the most part it's quite a tidy engine bay. So we've mounted the ECU up here, Bob's Yarny. It's all looking pretty damn good, apart from the few things we've just got to finish off, as these guys know. So stoked with that. We still haven't finished our intake obviously, but you know, the wiring's mostly sorted, and for the most part it's pretty simple. For now, as you can see, just jerry rigged up this bottom radiator hose because we're still waiting for our thermostat housing to come here. We are getting a like a billet thermostat housing that you can clock the outlet on, so that we can actually clock the outlet around and make that much tidier. So that's sort of just a jerry rig for now thing. But we were sick of pushing this thing around, so Rex made a point of getting it running this weekend so that it can drive, so that we don't have to push this thing anymore. So that's where we're at with it. So Rex got it started last night. He reckons it is rowdy AF. He reckons we're definitely going to have to try and put a muffler in it. Way rowdier than we expected it to be. So you're about to hear it for the first time, as I am. I really thought the turbo would shut it up at least a little bit, and it just really hasn't. Not even a little bit. Listen to this. Oh, here we go. I was literally at my head right at the Sorry. Woo. That rings. Sorry. Yeah, that's pretty rowdy. It's a bit fucking rowdy. Ah well, try and fit a muffler under there I suppose. No, that's definitely not streetable. That's not stealthy at all. Really shut it up a little bit, but it's just fucking loud. So we're pretty lucky. There is a fair bit of room there. We should be able to fit a decent muffler in there. We'll try and get something like a good muffler so that it still sounds really nice. It's important to us that this ute sounds pretty good getting around. But it's going to be a shame. Rex took some photos when he had the tray off the other day. I'll chuck them in now so that you can see. And you can see how nice it all looks under there, and the symmetricity of the exhaust and the screamer and stuff, and how good it sort of looked. So it will be a bit of a shame to whack a muffler in there and ruin that. But yeah, it's definitely going to need one. That's Anyway, Rex is about to drive it under its own power for the first time. So I'll get this car out of the way so that he can move it out. So like even, pretty sure before this weekend, it didn't even have the power steering box in it. So Rex has even got the power steering box in it, all the power steering's hooked up and working. So all that's working, like heaps of progress has actually been made. Here it is, it's driving. He reckons the steering's really, really light. see how he even likes the steering? Rex actually, where that power steering box actually came from was it was in Rex's blue tonneau. And he actually removed it because he didn't like it because it was too light. He didn't have any steering feedback. So see how he likes the power steering when we get it actually running on the street. But still a long way to go, you know. All the brakes need to be gone through still. Still a long way to go with this thing. We're still going to do something about a rear end, about the diff. So still plenty of work to go, but it is definitely cool to see the thing running. Yeah, you can adjust it. But you can adjust the turbo over the thumb slap.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking rude. Still, running, it drives.
Yep.
So don't have to push it anymore, that's the important thing. Still, yeah, still needs things to sort out. There's something weird going on with the cooling system, but there's a few things that could be.
Yeah.
Old thermostat, that kink in that bottom hose, the heater ports are just blocked off at the moment.
I saw that. Yeah,
so there's heaps of stuff that's like, they're not even lubed here, they're just blocked. Just like I said, just the minimum that we needed just to get it moving and driving.
Yep. So another issue that we're having is that the alternator is just not charging at all. So it's just one of those max speeding rods alts, just a cheap China alternator from max speeding rods. And from what Rex has gone through today, at this stage it looks like it's probably just a faulty alternator that's not charging, is what it seems to be. Which, you know, these things do happen. But we just happen to have another one on the shelf that just came that we ordered for another project, same alternator. So we've got one here to sort of fault find, whack it in, see if it's charging, and see if it's just a dodgy Holden, see what the go is. So you can see there all the power steering stuff, that's all on there. Power steer, all of it's working. And yeah, that's the alternator. It's literally just a brand new max speeding rods. So all things currently pointing to dodgy alternator, but we will endeavour to find out. Righto guys, so it's Saturday morning. We're about to finish off the S13 that's outside that we have this extra alternator for. So before we go ahead and fit that alternator, we just want to try it on this thing to make sure, we'll see I suppose whether this alternator is the problem, whether we've hopefully just unluckily got one bung alternator, or whether there's something else wrong with this thing and as to why it's not charging. So to test that.
Well really, I've already checked that. I mean, one of the two wires that goes to the alternator is just the charge light, which is an output. The other one has 12 volts from the battery, and then there's just the actual charge cable to the battery, which is obviously hooked up.
Not really much that could be wrong.
There's not much else. Already, like I said to you, I'll tell the cameras, I've already considered the fact that I've painted all the brackets and everything like that, so it could be that the alternator itself isn't earthed properly, but we earthed it with jumper cables from the alternator to the negative terminal. It made no difference, so that sort of rules that out too. So
definitely appears to be a bung alternator.
There's not much else it can be as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, so we'll just confirm that real quick, and then it can go back outside until maybe tomorrow when we get some more time to do some more stuff to it. But alrighty guys, so we figured it out. Rex is an idiot.
Hey, not fair.
Nah, but there was no issue with the charge mobile alternator. It's charging fine, as you can see. So it's just the charge wire for the actual alternator needs 12 volts, which anyway, it's working fine. So no issue with the alternator. Good to go. Max speeding rods alternator, boy. Big old max speedy rods alternator.
Right, well, I'll save myself some bother, and I'm just going to leave that one right where it is.
Yep.
And we'll just put that one on, Stewie.
Sounds good. They're both brand new.
They're both brand new.
Both brand new from the Mad Company themselves.
Right.
Pretty sure I used James Longstaff's code to buy that. So.
Did you?
Yeah. I was like, well, if I'm going to buy something from Max Beating Rods, I may as well use someone's code.
Nice.
Get them some commish, you know?
The old fucking James Longstaff.
Ah, the old Longstaff. Shout out James Longstaff. That dude's hilarious. What's up, guys? Another short update on the tonner. Sorry that these videos have been so spread out. We are so incredibly busy at the moment. It sort of has been like all of the work for the rest of the year's coming to a T, and we're having to organise everything to make sure everything's here because of COVID and how hard it is to get parts, and it's just been a hectic time for us, especially just coming off Power Cruise and Matsuri. It's just been crazy. So we have not had much time at all to work on this thing, but it's Friday afternoon. Rex managed to get it in the shed here to try a few things out. Our new thermostat housing got here from Airflow, so it's one of those ones where you can clock the housing any way you want. So this thing has now got a housing which points the right way. It's got a thermostat in it, and that's essentially how that's going to stay now, which is much nicer than how we had it jerry-rigged before. So unfortunately the 45-degree bit of silicon that Rex bought just wasn't long enough to reach the thermostat housing, so we had to put a little bit of a joiner in there and an extension, which is a real pain, but it'll work. It's not the prettiest, but it works, and that's sort of been the theme of this whole build, honestly. It's not the prettiest, but it works. So anyway, that's awesome. I think at this point we've got pretty much everything here to create or build the intake, fabricate the intake. It's really at this point just a matter of finding some spare time to do it. But we were originally trying to get this thing done. We were sort of rushing it, trying to get it happening for a certain deadline, which is now not really existing. So at this point, this thing now can sort of take its time. We're not sort of pressuring ourselves to get this done the way we were when we started it out. So the other thing is, I suppose we've come up with a solution or made a decision on the rear end of the car, on the Diff. We've been talking to Top Cog there at Caloundra. He's actually building us another Diff for another project that's going to be happening a little bit later in the year. And he reckons, well, he doesn't really endorse doing the 10 bolt, but being that he knows that it's us building it for ourselves, we know the risk we're taking in running it. He's going to put one of his torque worm LSD centers and set up this Diff so that we can hopefully support the sort of power this thing's going to put to the ground. You know, as we always talked about, the 10 bolts aren't ridiculously weak. They're not the strongest diffs around, but they're not the weakest either, especially in the tunnels with the tonner axles. And this thing being fairly light, especially in the rear end, we're not going to be, you know, hooking it up on sticky tires and stuff like that. Even if it does make 500 horsepower, it's just going to be streeted, light tray, skinny tires, you know, 235s. We don't believe that it's going to be sticky enough, and we're not going to drive it in such a way that we're going to really hurt this diff. So we think with his center set up properly, this diff's going to be fine. Knowing that that is how we're going to be running the car, and we know we're going to be keeping the drum rear brakes and the rear end that's already in here, we can go ahead and actually get the brakes sorted out now, because that was one of the big things we were waiting on. We weren't sure if we were going to try and put a Borg Warner 78 in this thing out of one of our Falcon wagons and go down that road, which then would mean it would have disc rear brakes, which would then mean we'd have to change the master cylinder, and we would be wasting our time going through the brakes that are currently on the car. So just a lot of decision making, I suppose. There's a lot of update in this little clip, I suppose. So that's given us a direction to move in, so we can actually work on now moving on to getting the brakes sorted in this thing, which is another big hurdle, another big thing that has to be sorted before it can really go back on the street, because the brakes in it are pretty terrible. But at least it's got power steering now, eh?
Yeah, it's light as shit.
So Rex is just at the moment where we've received our 3.5-inch hot dog from Growl. So we've also got a 3.5-inch muffler on the way. I believe I've already gone through that in this, so I won't repeat myself. But we're still waiting for it to get here. Again, freight company issues this week. It's actually coming with the exhaust waiting on for this thing behind me, which we've been waiting for all week. It's a simple exhaust install. Should have been done on Monday. It's now Friday. We still haven't even got a freaking exhaust because of this freight company. It does my head in. Anyway, unfortunately, we don't believe that the muffler we've ordered is going to be much different as far as this. This is 6 inches in diameter, this actual hot dog part. We're pretty sure the muffler is going to be fairly similar.
Muffler, I think, is 9 by 6.
9 by 6, so pretty much the same height. It's an oval muffler though. But essentially, we just flat out don't have enough room where we've run this tailpipe between the chassis and the tray to fit these mufflers. It's just simply not going to work. So our options pretty much were either lift the tray up to allow room or change change the exhaust route and move it and turn it and bring it underneath the chassis and hang it down, which, as much as we really don't want to do that, especially with all the effort that's gone into getting the exhaust to this point and the fact that it's pretty much done, it sucks to have to undo a lot of that work and basically cut it back off at that after that S-bend and redo the rest of it is pretty much what it's going to be. Not much of that's going to get reused, so that sucks. So basically we're super not impressed by having to redo that, and we're super not keen on having the exhaust hanging underneath the chassis. Definitely not our style. We like it the way it is. But it is obviously very important to us also that this thing doesn't sound like arse, which it definitely does at the moment. It's got just the most horrendous thong slapper note, cackly. It just sounds horrific. It really does sound shit. So as ugly as it's gonna be, it's more important to us that this thing sounds the part, honestly.
Yeah, it's the worst thing when it's not just loud, it's loud and shit.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Which is the worst.
The only way you can get away with an obnoxiously loud car is if it sounds good. If it's obnoxiously loud and it sounds bad, everyone just reckons you're a shithead. And honestly, I'm one of those people that's just like, why is your car that loud and that terribly sounding?
You look like a bird.
But anyway, so that's pretty much the update on where we are. Sorry, this episode's probably fairly lackluster and not super exciting, but just a lot of, like I said, a lot of decisions have been made. A few things getting here and changing direction in a few ways, but again, like I said, at this point, this build's just going to tick along from here. We are so freaking busy, it's not even funny. Desperately need some more hands around the workshop at this point. But yeah, this thing will just get completed in time. We've got a bit of time up our sleeves for it now, so we'll make sure it's done right and to our taste and sounds the way we want it to sound. But that's pretty much a little bit of an update on the yellow rig. I've been doing a bit of a blog, posting on the Onsong Performance Instagram and Facebook page on the actual history of this ute. Sort of the way I did the first episode of this series, probably a little bit more in depth than I did in that YouTube video. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, definitely head to our Onsong Performance Instagram and Facebook pages and give it a follow and have a look. I'll be releasing new parts every few days or weeks or however long I get to it. There's a fair bit of story in there, so a lot of history. So anyway, that's it for this episode, this little update. Thank you for watching, guys. Hope you've enjoyed, and hopefully it won't be too long before the next episode, but I'm not making any promises at the moment with anything. We're just so freaking busy, so we'll see how we go. But thanks for watching, as always. Smash like, smash subscribe, head to the merch shop, buy yourself some merch. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out, see you, bye.